Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's boss is demanding he work weekends because he doesn't have a family. Am I the jerk for refusing to work weekends even though I don't have a family? I'm a 23-year-old guy working full-time in the deli at a local grocery store. I've been there for just over 2 years now, and until recently, I genuinely enjoyed it. The hours were steady, the team was solid, and I had a great rhythm going. I worked Monday through Friday, same shift every week, and that was part of what kept me grounded. Outside of work, I teach a kids' gymnastics class on Saturdays at the local community center. It's something I've done for years, even before I started this job. It's not paid, but it's part of my life, and honestly, one of the few things that brings me real joy. Sundays, I volunteer at my church, helping with food prep and organizing donations. Again, not paid, but meaningful to me. The deli got a new manager a few weeks ago. He's probably in his early 40s, very corporate in his approach, and clearly trying to prove something. Within his first week, he started changing how we stocked the case, redid the schedule board, and made a whole speech about how we all need to tighten up and show some hustle. Fair enough, I figured. I'm adaptable. Then the new schedule got posted, and I noticed my shifts had all moved to the weekend. I'm now scheduled Friday through Tuesday, with Saturday and Sunday as full shifts. I went to talk to him privately and said, respectfully, that I've never worked weekends because I have long-standing commitments outside of work. I explained about gymnastics and church. He cut me off halfway through and asked, "Are those jobs?" I told him no, but that they're still commitments that I take seriously. That's when he pulled the team player line. He said I need to step up and be more flexible, especially since I'm the only one on staff without a spouse or kids. He literally said, "It's not fair for me to ask people with families to work weekends when you've got the time." I told him I don't have the time. I have responsibilities too, and I've had this schedule for 2 years for a reason. He didn't back down. He said the new schedule was final, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. That nobody's forcing you to stay. That hit me the wrong way. I've never been late. I've never called out without a good reason. I've covered for other people more times than I can count, and I actually like my job. Or I did. I went home that night and just felt really dismissed, like my time means nothing because I don't have kids. I may not have a wife waiting for me, but 20 screaming kids who call me coach are. And so are the elderly people I help every week at our church's senior social club. I may not have a family of my own yet, but that doesn't mean I don't show up for people. I talked to a few coworkers about it, and they're just relieved that it's not them. I get it, but I'm torn. I've been thinking of quitting and looking elsewhere, but I also don't want to give up something stable over this. So Reddit, am I the jerk for refusing to work weekends and pushing back against this new schedule? Not the jerk at all. Your manager is showing blatant favoritism toward employees with families, and that's not okay. Your time and your outside commitments matter just as much, even if they don't involve a spouse or kids. Volunteering at church and teaching gymnastics are real responsibilities, and you shouldn't be penalized just because you're single. It's ridiculous that he's framing this as you not being a team player when he's the one trying to throw out a working schedule to make life easier for others at your expense. Definitely start looking for a better place, somewhere your time is respected. Update 2 months later. When the new weekend schedule rolled out, I didn't want to quit my job, so I stepped down from my Saturday gymnastics program and Sunday church volunteering. It hurt to say goodbye, but everyone at both places was incredibly kind and told me they hoped I'd return someday. Once weekends at work began, things got worse. My manager and a few coworkers would tease me about the shift, making snide jokes like, "How's the weekend grind going?" I didn't take the bait, but I definitely missed being around people who respected and valued me. Then something unexpected happened. One Sunday, an older woman came to the deli and kept staring at me until she finally said, "You're the instructor." I realized she was the grandmother of one of my former students. I told her I had to quit because my manager now made me work weekends. When I mentioned I had been volunteering, not being paid, she looked stunned. "You weren't paid?" she said. I told her no, that I just loved being there for the kids. She asked how much I made at the deli. When I said $14 an hour, She pulled out her phone and asked for my number, telling me that her daughter managed a retirement home and might have a job for me if I agreed to come back to instructing. That night, her daughter called. She said they'd start me at $25 an hour working in their cafeteria, with a raise to $30 after 6 months. Best of all, it would be Monday through Friday. She also knew me through her daughter and said that I was her favorite instructor. I nearly cried. I accepted immediately. A week later, I started the new job. I didn't give 2 weeks' notice at the deli. I just told my manager I was taking his advice and leaving. He tried to backpedal, saying I was a great employee and they could work something out. I told him I found something better and left it at that. Now I'm at the retirement home and it's everything I hoped for. The kitchen is clean, the staff is respectful, and the whole place feels like a community. Some of the residents are people I know from church, and seeing how happy they are to have me there brings it all full circle. Funny how life works out. Walking away from what wasn't right made space for something so much better. I'm really happy for you, OP. Life really does have a way of redirecting us, doesn't it? What feels like everything falling apart in the moment often turns out to be the exact shift that we needed. It's almost like the doors we think are slamming in our face are actually just nudging us toward the one that was always meant for us. Sounds like you're exactly where you belong now, and it's beautiful to see how it all worked out. You know, Karen, stories like this remind us that sometimes the breakdown is really just the beginning of the breakthrough.
Right? It can feel like life's punishing you when things fall apart, but it's like a garden, just being pruned and cared for.
And when those weeds are ripped out at the root, it hurts at first, but it's actually creating the space for other seeds to grow, ones that will actually bear fruit.
That's the secret, Reddit boy. Life never takes anything without planting something better in its place.
So trust the process and trust that inner voice. Not the voice of worry or trying to please anyone, but the voice of clear, quiet discernment. That's the big you, guiding the little you. It's always been with you, and it always will be. Am I the jerk for offering no sympathy to my husband when his dad crossed a boundary? I found out I was pregnant with my second child 3 days before Christmas. I told my husband the following day. He was thrilled. I was excited too, but I also felt nervous and needed a little time to settle into the idea. With our toddler already keeping us busy, the idea of adding a newborn to the chaos shook me a bit. Because of that mix of emotions, I asked my husband if we could keep the pregnancy between us for a while. I told him I wanted to get through the holidays without the spotlight on us and without all the early questions and attention. I wanted a little breathing room. His immediate response was, "I'm so excited. Can I at least tell a work friend?" I repeated that I really wanted us to keep it private for now. Less than 10 minutes later, he told me he had already shared the news with that friend and then told me he had told another friend too. I told him that I felt disappointed and disrespected. He apologized, but he also brushed it off and said he wouldn't tell anyone else. Over the next couple of weeks, he pressured me to tell his parents. Every time we talked about keeping it quiet, he would start nudging again. Then, one night, when his parents were at our house for coffee, he accidentally let it slip right in front of me. He did it in a way that wasn't on accident at all. He said it with that bright, cheerful tone he uses when he wants someone to think something just came out naturally. He repeated this pattern with a few more people in his life. He would insist he'd keep it private, then tell them anyway. For some reason, the only people he didn't tell were his grandparents. His dad had been pushing him to call them, and this week, his dad told him that if he didn't share the news by the end of the day, he would tell them himself. My husband came home in a terrible mood. He vented about how inconsiderate his dad was and how angry the ultimatum made him. I listened and agreed that his dad shouldn't have done that and that it wasn't his place to share the news. Then I said, in a very calm tone, "I love you, but does this give you a little context for how it felt when you did the same thing to me?" He exploded. He said I was making the entire thing about myself. He called me a victim. He told me he needed support and not whatever this is. I snapped back. I told him that I wasn't trying to attack him, I was trying to help him connect the dots. We barely spoke the rest of the night. I can't understand how he wants sympathy from me when he repeatedly did the exact same thing and dismissed how hurt I felt about it. I'm still angry. I still feel like he doesn't see me unless it serves his feelings. Am I missing something? Should I have swallowed my frustration and comforted him? Would he have seen the comparison on his own? I can't tell anymore. Not the jerk. Your husband has no problem doing something hurtful to you, but the moment the same thing happens to him, he suddenly sees it as a real violation. That alone shows the double standard. You didn't attack him. You simply drew a clear connection between two very similar situations. That's adults communicating. If anything, you showed more patience than most people would have. It also isn't surprising that he reacted defensively. People who don't want to acknowledge their own behavior often lash out at whoever holds up the mirror. You're not crazy or dramatic. You're not wrong. His dad crossed a boundary, and your husband crossed the exact same one with you. If he wants empathy, he needs to recognize the pattern. Update 10 months later. Well, it's been almost a year since I ghosted everyone on my original post. I was overwhelmed, to say the least, by the responses. I still think about that situation often, and now that some time has passed, I wanted to reflect and update anyone who's curious. A lot has happened. I gave birth in early August to a beautiful baby girl. The delivery was rough, and I still haven't processed all of it, but she's healthy and perfect, and I'm grateful. I want to clarify a few things before I explain where my life is now. Everything I wrote in my first post happened exactly as described. Many commenters recognized something I couldn't admit to myself at the time. I was confused, overwhelmed, and questioning my own judgment because this kind of dynamic happens in my marriage a lot. It wasn't about pregnancy news. It was about a long pattern of behavior. Now, after reading resources people shared with me and working through this with a therapist, when I can afford it, I think I'm in a toxic relationship. It feels surreal to type that. I never thought I would be someone who ended up in a situation like this. But toxic partners don't start with big explosions. They start with smaller things, gradual shifts, slow erosion of boundaries until one day you realize you don't exist in the relationship anymore. You're just a person reacting to the next outburst. Our relationship now is not happy. Parenting with him is draining. He still has the same patterns of minimizing my feelings, flipping conversations back onto me, and refusing to acknowledge his own contradictions. The situation from my original post was just one of many, but I'm doing what I can. I go to therapy when I'm able. We go to couples counseling sometimes, but he often finds reasons to cancel or postpone. I'm slowly trying to regain my confidence. I'm working on plans for the future, including the possibility of leaving if I need to. I'm learning what financial control looks like. I'm learning what emotional manipulation looks like. I'm learning how denial and learned helplessness show up. And I'm trying to find work I can do from home to support my children and myself. I love my kids more than anything. I don't know what the end of this story looks like yet, and I'm trying to build a safe path forward, but it's complicated. With childcare shortages, a high cost of living, and limited job openings in my area, leaving isn't something I can do overnight, but I'm preparing quietly. I have a safety plan with my therapist. I've been rebuilding ties with the only family member I can reliably count on. I'm keeping documents together. Slowly, the pieces are coming into place. What I do know is that strangers on the internet help me recognize the truth sooner than I might have on my own. For that, I'm grateful. Please remember that toxic relationships are not simple. They don't start out that way. They don't look obvious from the outside. They're built slowly, with affection or love bombing mixed into it. It's not weakness to get caught in it. It's human. Thank you to everyone who showed compassion instead of judgment. Your comments made something click in me when I needed it the most. I remember your original post. Congratulations on your baby. I'm sorry you're going through this. When someone shows you empathy only when it benefits them and anger when it doesn't, that's not a partnership. You deserve safety and peace. You're already taking the right steps by building a plan. Keep going, one piece at a time. You can get out. And when you do, your kids will grow up seeing someone who refused to let disrespect become normal. Sometimes life hands you a warning sign in neon lights. If someone shows you how they act when the spotlight isn't on them, pay attention.
People don't flip a switch overnight. They chip away at your space little by little, Calling it out isn't dramatic, it's survival.
A healthy relationship shouldn't feel like walking through a minefield. You deserve room to breathe.
And if someone keeps shrinking your world, that's your cue to take back the whole map.
Petty revenge on a woman who worked with my husband that wouldn't take a hint. Hey Reddit, so I'm already aware that I might be the jerk here, and I quite frankly don't care. 3 years ago, something small, ridiculous, but satisfying happened, and it recently came back to life during a girls' night. My 27 female husband, who's 29, and I still laugh about it now, mostly because of how simple it all was. I'm not pretending I was some flawless angel in this story, but I also don't care. And it still stands as one of my favorite petty victories. My husband, we'll call him A, and my brother both used to work at a small restaurant supply branch before a bigger company bought them out and closed everything down. Each branch only had around 5 or 6 employees, a manager, a few office workers, and 1 or 2 warehouse and delivery drivers. My husband started off doing deliveries and worked his way into the front office after 2 years. By the time everything blew up, he had been in the office for almost a year, sitting right next to my brother. When A got promoted, the company hired 2 new people to take over the warehouse and delivery route. One of them was a woman I'll call Susan, 24, female at the time. Since the branch was small and I often brought my husband lunch 3 times a week, plus the occasional breakfast run before my own shift, everyone there knew who I was. They knew I was around a lot, knew my face, and knew A and I were married. One afternoon, I dropped by for lunch like usual. When I walked into the office, A and my brother were laughing and rolling their eyes at something. I asked what was going on, and my brother said he was teasing A about someone at work who might have a crush on him. I was confused until Susan walked in a second later. She stopped in front of me, gave me a polite smile. I smiled back and introduced myself as A's wife. I swear, her smile dropped for half a second, then her eyes flicked down to his wedding band as if she needed confirmation. She excused herself and said she had an order to deliver before the end of the day. Before she left, she told my husband she'd talk to him later. He didn't react. He just pulled me into a hug. I thought she looked bothered by that. After she walked out, A told me she had been asking him questions all morning. He had just moved out of her position, so the manager told him to help her with whatever she ran into. According to my husband, she had been finding reasons to talk to him non-stop since she had started. My brother confirmed it. He said it was a little too obvious and even kind of annoying. It wasn't the end of it, not by a long shot. Over the next few weeks, Susan started getting a lot bolder. She was flirty even when I was around, like I wasn't supposed to notice. A told her repeatedly he was married. She told him she was married too, and that it was nice having someone waiting for you at home. That part threw me because she had 4 kids. My husband talked to the manager about the whole situation, but nothing came of it. She was the new favorite, and he didn't want to rock the boat with her for reasons none of us understood. My husband kept ignoring her behavior. He didn't encourage anything, he didn't joke with her, didn't flirt back. He didn't even give her much conversation unless she absolutely needed help with a customer order. But she still kept trying. Then came the final straw. Actually, 2 of them. The first happened while we were all standing around the office talking. She said something directly to A. He didn't even hear her. Or maybe he did and he didn't want to encourage it. She waited for him to respond, and when he didn't, she looked embarrassed and stared at the floor. Right after that, she seemed to decide subtlety wasn't working. The next day, I had to pick my husband up because his car was in the shop. I got there a little early. He was closing up, finishing paperwork, turning off computers. He came over, smiled, kissed me, and we all headed toward the front door together due to setting the alarm. The order of people walking out was the manager, my brother, Susan, then me and my husband beside me. Susan was right in front of us, and that's when I noticed she was wearing those viral waffle leggings from TikTok, the ones that are supposed to lift and shape everything and leave nothing to the imagination. And she was definitely performing. She was swaying her hips in a very deliberate way as she walked ahead of my husband. I glanced at him. He wasn't even looking. He was busy turning off the lights. She looked back and caught me staring at her, then she stopped swaying. And that was the moment something switched in me. It wasn't jealousy. It was irritation, disrespect, and an overwhelming feeling of, okay, enough. I didn't want to get my husband in trouble. I didn't want to fight with this girl in the parking lot. I knew I couldn't talk to the manager because he had already shown he wasn't taking anything seriously. I wanted something small and clean, something she couldn't blame on me or twist into a dramatic story. So I made a plan. The next day, on my way to have lunch with A, I made a phone call to the corporate offices across the street. I pretended to be a customer, a very offended one. When they answered, I asked to speak with someone about their employees. They transferred me to who I only assumed to be HR. She answered and asked what she could help me with. I said in my fakest, sweetest Southern Belle accent I could come up with, and asked if they had a professional dress code for delivery drivers or if they were allowed to dress like online TikTok content creators. You know the kind. HR immediately sounded alarmed. She stumbled over her words and assured me they had a dress code. I explained the leggings, the texture, how everything was visible, and how it didn't look right for someone delivering supplies to businesses. I told her it made me uncomfortable because I had customers coming in, and that wasn't the image I wanted associated with my company. When I tell you I heard an "oh my god" and a mortified gasp, I did. Apparently, it was on speakerphone, and the receptionist who transferred me was standing right there. She asked what company I was with, but I said I'd rather not say anything since I didn't want any retaliation. She apologized over and over and promised it wouldn't happen again. When she asked for the employee's name, I pretended to struggle. Sherry? Susie? Sam? Something like that. HR guessed. Was it Susan? And I acted like that jogged my memory. I wrapped up the call quickly, told them a customer had just walked in, and hung up. 5 minutes later, I walked into my husband's branch. I'm not kidding. Susan was already sitting in the manager's office with the phone on speaker. Apparently, HR called and wanted to talk to her about their dress code. I asked my husband and brother what happened, and they said they didn't know. I tried not to smile while being satisfied with myself. A month later, Susan quit. She said warehouse work was too hard and she was moving into an office job. A year after that, we heard she had cheated on her husband with 2 coworkers at her new place and her marriage fell apart. My husband and I are still together, still happy, and expecting our second child this spring. So, that's my petty revenge story. Having worked for doctors, I can confirm this happens more often than people think. New employees come in and decide the quickest way to a better paycheck is through flirting. Some do it so openly that it becomes uncomfortable for everyone else. I've seen people try all sorts of things to get on a doctor's good side. The fluttering, the giggling, the dramatic sighing, the whole notice me routine. It gets old fast. I agree with putting someone like that back in their place. When she realized she couldn't use her charm on your husband, who seemed completely uninterested, she moved on to the next target. Some people really clock in thinking the workplace is a dating show. Ma'am, this is a delivery job, not find my future husband.
Right? She was strutting around like corporate was about to promote her to office seduction specialist.
Meanwhile, OP's husband is just trying to do his job and go home, not survive the season finale of Warehouse Temptation Island.
And bless her heart, she still got eliminated in episode 1.
I, 23 female, keep having sleepovers with my friend, 24 male, but nothing happens, and I'm so confused. I, 23 female, have this friend, 24 male, let's call him Matt. We're both international students, and we met at a welcome event for new students back in August. We're both from the same country, which made the conversation easy and familiar. We clicked right away. Matt is attractive in a way that tends to turn heads, and I had a crush on him the moment I saw him. I was in a relationship at the time, so I left it alone. That relationship ended a few months later. It wasn't dramatic or messy, more like 2 people on different paths, and long distance wasn't giving either of us what we needed. Matt has been single since the day I met him. He's straight, interested in women, and very open about that in general, so there was never any confusion there. We're part of a small friend group, 3 guys, 1 other girl, and me. The 5 of us used to hang out every weekend. Sometimes someone cooked. Sometimes we just ordered takeout and played games until late. Matt and I would often end up talking long after the group drifted off. It became normal for us to be the last 2 awake while the others Ubered home or walked back to their apartments. The first sleepover happened by accident. It was in March, well after midnight. We'd been talking for hours and didn't notice the time. My place is tiny. There's a small bed, a small couch that barely fits 2 people, a tiny desk, and not much else. It didn't make sense for him to walk home that late, so he stayed. We shared the bed because the couch is too short to lie on. It was awkward, but he kept to his side and didn't do anything that would make me uncomfortable. I woke up the next morning still confused about how normal he made it feel. I expected it to be a one-time thing, but it wasn't. Over the months that followed, we had several nights like that. Sometimes at my place, sometimes at his. We'd hang out, talk about school, watch a show, play cards, tease each other, fall asleep, and wake up early for class. No flirting, no moves, no tension that either of us acknowledged. He never acted embarrassed, never brought it up the next day, and treated it like we were simply 2 close friends who trusted each other. What confused me more was how casual he became around me. He didn't leave the room if I changed clothes. He didn't hesitate to brush his teeth beside me or talk through the bathroom door while I showered. It felt like he saw me as someone safe, someone familiar, almost like family. And that confused me more than anything because I've been attracted to him the entire time. I finally asked him if he had ever done this with another girl. He said no. That answer made everything even stranger. I haven't had sleepovers like this with male friends either. And the more it kept happening, the more I wondered whether he was uninterested or waiting for me to say something. Now, I'm shy about this stuff. I don't make the first move. I never have. And now I feel stuck between liking him and being afraid to ruin what we already have by saying anything. I don't know if we're just unusually close friends, or if he sees me like a sister, or if he's waiting for a signal from me. For context, I think I have a cute face and a pretty average body. He's more conventionally attractive than I am, but I'm not insecure about my appearance. I just don't know how to read him anymore. I feel safe around him, I feel comfortable, but I don't know what this is supposed to be. He's a respectful dude and he's a guest in your apartment. He doesn't want to risk making you uncomfortable in your own space. He probably doesn't want to make the first move unless he's sure you're okay with it. You may have to initiate. Update 1 week later. I finally talked to Matt, and the things moved faster than I expected. On Saturday evening, I texted him and said I needed to talk about something. My plan was to say it in person, but I chickened out and asked him over text how he felt about the nights we slept beside each other. He didn't understand at first, so I explained that I enjoyed those moments because I'm attracted to him. I asked again how he felt. He said that during the first sleepover, I had just broken up with my ex and he didn't want to take advantage of the situation. After that, he kept being respectful because he didn't want to assume anything. He said something like, "I'm loyal to you always." And I had to sit with that for a moment. We agreed to talk in person the next day. We already had plans to go to a friend's place, so we met there. I felt awkward seeing him after sending all that, but he acted completely normal. After we left, he drove me home. That's when the real conversation happened. I told him I liked him from the first moment I saw him. I told him my feelings only grew stronger with each sleepover. He said he liked me too. He admitted he always felt tension between us, even when the group was around. He said he never made a move because of my ex at first, and later because he thought I had something going on with other guys. We both let the past go. I asked if he wanted to try something more with me now, and he said yes. So I kissed him, finally. We've been talking more since then, learning each other in a different way. It feels new and familiar at the same time. Thank you to everyone who encouraged me to stop overthinking and to just communicate. I wouldn't have moved forward without that push. Sometimes the universe just needs to smack 2 people on the head and say, "You like each other, now do something about it."
Good thing they finally talked, or they'd still be lying there like 2 confused pillows.
My parents took down all the trophies in the house except for my sisters. I have 5 siblings, an older brother who's 30, 2 older sisters who are 27 and 22, a younger sister who's 20, and a younger brother who's 18. My second oldest sister, who I'll call Bibi, is a year apart from me and has always been the golden child. Not to say the rest of us were scapegoats. Bibi did everything. She kept straight A's through school and was also MVP or champion in her sports or academic teams. Our parents kept a bunch of shelves for her trophies and medals, and they were always filled. They even had to keep adding more space. The rest of us also participated in sports and extracurriculars, and we had our own shelves for our trophies. However, none of us ever came close to matching BB's collection. She was competitive and always a winner. The only sport where we were equals was soccer because she played on the same team, but even then, she always got MVP. I won't lie, there was a little resentment, but I knew I had to bench those feelings. BB didn't have an ego or anything. She was just really good at what she did, and it wasn't her fault our parents recognized her achievements. Despite everything, we got along really well. We both go to school close to our parents' place, but they've been in the process of moving and remodeling their house, so neither of us has visited for a while. I know BB has kept up with sports, and most of her college is paid for by sports scholarships. When our parents finally finished their remodels, we came home to celebrate. They gave us a tour of the house, and in the living room, there was a huge shelf of trophies. At first, I thought they had consolidated all of our trophies into one display. Later, when everyone was out on the deck, I went back to take a closer look at the trophies. I read the nameplates, and to my surprise, they were all BB's. I figured maybe my parents had gotten rid of my older sister's trophies, most of which were participation awards, but what about the rest of us? My older brother was really successful in lacrosse. I did well in soccer and swimming. My younger sister had numerous academic accolades, and my younger brother is a talented weightlifter and wrestler. The fact that they got rid of all our trophies in favor of BB's felt like an insult. I assume ours are either in storage or the garbage because they weren't displayed anywhere else in the house. Our parents have always treated us equally, or so I thought. This felt like a betrayal. I was vocal about how much I loved soccer and how important it was to me. I even continued playing in college, though I was never the best. I still worked hard and earned medals and trophies. Seeing them gone made me feel like my efforts didn't matter. Am I being petty? What can I even say to my parents? Right now I want to yell, "Forget you!" But I know that's not reasonable for a 21-year-old. Is there anything constructive I can say to them, or is it just me being immature? I haven't spoken to my siblings or BB about it yet. The other siblings live further away, so they didn't come for the celebration. I've just been trying to compartmentalize everything. I searched the house to see if I could find our old missing trophies, but there was no sign of them. My best guess is they're either in storage, an unpacked box, or worse, in the landfill. I'm planning to talk to my parents tonight. We'll see how that goes. Update. The night I posted, I spoke to BB about the trophy situation. I pointed out that the shelf only displayed her trophies and the conversation did not go well. I think being apart from her for so long made me overlook how much she's changed. Her ego is definitely different from what I remember. I showed her the nameplates on each trophy, and her response was, "Well, of course they're my trophies. When was the last time you got better than bronze?" I asked her if it didn't bother her that the rest of our trophies were hidden, given how much effort and dedication we'd put into our activities. Her response, "No, dedication doesn't make you a winner." Then she told me I was wasting her time, said I should grow up and get over yourself, and walked off to hang out with our parents. This was the moment everything clicked. BB was the golden child, and the rest of us were essentially the scapegoats. While I was there, it was clear my parents' focus was on BB, and I was just an afterthought. I later got my parents alone and asked them about the missing trophies. They echoed BB's sentiments, telling me I hadn't earned my spot on the shelf. They admitted my trophies had been thrown out because they didn't impress anyone the way BB's did. They said I'm an adult now and should get over it. I've never felt more hurt in my life. Looking back, the signs were always there. My games and competitions always seemed to take a backseat to BB's. They went to her events over mine, brought snacks for her team but not mine, and hosted celebrations for her victories but never ours. I convinced myself it was all in my head because I valued my relationship with BB. I didn't realize just how much I'd been pushed aside. I told my siblings what happened because I felt they deserved to know their trophies had been removed. My younger brother was so upset, he called our parents crying. My older sister started a passive-aggressive and sometimes outright aggressive game of phone tag with BB. My younger sister was devastated and called me crying. The situation spiraled when BB sent a group text that essentially read, "I'm sorry I'm better than you, but I deserve our parents' love more than you." Naturally, that made everything worse. My family is now a complete mess. None of us want to speak to BB or our parents, but the four of us siblings are at least united in sharing this loss. Am I the jerk for not helping my boyfriend's family with home improvement tasks after he voluntold me? I'm a 25-year-old woman and my boyfriend is 26. He has a mother and 3 sisters. Their father passed when they were all very young, and honestly, none of them have really learned how to be independent. My dad raised me to be self-reliant. He always told me to never depend on a man, and I've taken that to heart. My dad owned a construction company and was one of the most talented woodworkers I've ever known. He taught me how to do a lot of things. I can work on cars within reason, cook, build furniture, lay tile, and handle most home improvement projects. If I don't know how to do something, I'm pretty good at looking it up on YouTube or asking for pointers. My boyfriend and I live in a house that I own outright. Over time, I've made the house into a space that meets both of our needs. We're planning to get married soon, and we've talked about adopting kids in the future. His sisters, on the other hand, are all kinds of helpless. I'll admit, I don't particularly like any of them. His oldest sister has been dating this slimy guy, and they have 4 kids together. He drinks too much, doesn't contribute much, and fraudulently collects a disability check by pretending to have schizophrenia. Their trailer is falling apart, and they've been dealing with major issues like the water not working. She cried to my boyfriend, asking him to get me to come over, fix their water, and take care of other repairs since she can't afford to hire anyone. My boyfriend agreed and casually told me about it, expecting I would say yes. I refused, explaining that I don't want to spend my free time on that. He was upset because he didn't want to back out of a promise to his sister. I suggested that they either figure it out themselves or hire someone to do it. After all, we keep our finances separate. Another of his sisters decided to remodel her kitchen last month. She thought it would be an easy project, but midway through, she realized she was in over her head. To make matters worse, her boyfriend broke up with her, leaving her with no one to help. She also asked my boyfriend to get me involved, and again, he told her I would help without consulting me. When I found out, I declined, causing the same argument to repeat itself. We're currently fighting because he believes I'm not being a team player when it comes to his family. I told him I never ask his family for anything, so I don't think it's fair for them to expect me to fix their mistakes. I would gladly help in situations like cooking a meal for someone who's sick or babysitting while someone's in the hospital, reasonable family things. But spending entire weekends on labor-intensive projects because of their poor decisions is where I draw the line. In the heat of the argument, I told him that if he couldn't accept this boundary, then we have no business getting married. The ball is in his court now. He apologized and dropped the issue, but I can tell he's still upset. Update. We had a frank conversation where I explained that I find his sisters overly dependent. They constantly expect help without offering anything in return. I made it clear that he's welcome to use his time, effort, and money to help them, but I don't want to be involved. He agreed to this boundary. Today, he went to help his sister fix the plumbing in their trailer. He spent 6 hours working on it, only for things to get worse. A pipe broke, flooding the area beneath the trailer with sewage and water. He had to call an emergency plumber who said the plumbing was so old that it all needed to be replaced. The repair was quoted at $6,000. After the plumber left, he and his sister got into a screaming match in front of the kids. She accused him of not doing enough and claimed that if I had come to help earlier, things wouldn't have gotten so bad. That doesn't even make sense, but she's grasping at straws. She then demanded that both of us come fix everything for free. My boyfriend finally snapped and told her off for always being a burden and making her problems everyone else's. She got offended and told him to leave if he thought he was so much better than her and her kids. The kids were crying and the whole situation was a mess. Both sisters have been blowing up his phone and mine, but we've been ignoring them. My boyfriend broke down and admitted he feels guilty because, as a kid, his dad made him promise to take care of the family before he passed. Personally, I don't think it was fair for his dad to put that kind of responsibility on a 6-year-old. It's been weighing on him for years. He's finally come to the realization that it's time to let his family sink or swim. He's just exhausted. We've decided to take a break from talking to them for a while. When we do reconnect, there will be clear boundaries, which he has agreed to enforce. That's where things stand right now. I don't know if this counts as a happy ending, but it's progress. For those suggesting I leave my boyfriend, I hope you don't end your relationships over every minor disagreement. Relationships are complicated. I'm willing to stand by him as we navigate these challenges together. Does your boyfriend's mom and sisters have any life skills or knowledge? OP. No, they don't. They all work entry-level jobs, earn very little, and have no real education or useful skills. My boyfriend has worked hard to get ahead in life, but they just drag him down. My wife wants to back out of the divorce that she filed for. My wife of 12 years decided to divorce me earlier this year. We did marriage counseling and tried just about everything you can to save a marriage. I love my wife, but according to her, she fell out of love 3 years ago. We separated in March of this year. The separation was recommended by the marriage counselor after everything else had failed. It was supposed to give us a new perspective on our marriage. I ended up moving out of the house, and honestly, I was much happier living by myself. I told my wife that I wouldn't file for divorce, and if she wanted to go down that route, she could file. In May, she finally filed for divorce. I honestly expected it after the separation experiment. I was hoping for a simple divorce, as we had discussed before we separated. We don't have a prenup since we both didn't have much when we got married. They always say that no matter how much you love or respect your spouse, during a divorce, there are no limits. She initially wanted the house, her car, full custody of our daughters, $4,000 a month in child support, and a six-figure alimony. My wife doesn't work, as she's a full-time stay-at-home mom. I was never going to leave her with nothing, but it hurt me that she would try to get all those things from me, knowing I'd be left with barely anything. Anyway, the lawyers have been negotiating for some time, and I haven't had much contact with my wife unless it's about the girls. Last night, my wife called me, asking if I would go to dinner because she wanted to talk. I accepted, and we met at a restaurant. She expressed that she wanted to give our marriage another try. Her reasoning was that she had been in a dark place before, and now she understands that she was the problem. She took 100% responsibility for our problems, which is very out of character for her. Ever since I've known her, she never apologizes. She also said that our daughters missed us living together, which I guess is true. After dinner, she wanted to come back to my place, but I told her it wasn't a good idea. I said I would need to think about it. She started crying and begging me to come back. Eventually, she calmed down and we went our separate ways. A few months ago, I would have agreed to try again without hesitation, but after the divorce process, I'm not so sure anymore. Another thing is, I know she's been on dates since our separation. She told one of our mutual friends, who told her husband, who then told me. I personally haven't dated anyone because our divorce hasn't been finalized. Also, I'm enjoying living single with just my daughters. Ideally, I would like to save this marriage for the sake of my daughters and because I still have love for my wife. But at the same time, I don't want to try again just to waste time, only to end up in the same situation we're in now. My daughters prefer staying with me over their mom. I've never said anything negative about their mom to them, and I try to keep them out of it completely. If anyone has experienced trying to make their marriage work again for round 2, was it positive or negative? Is it worth revisiting, or should I just cut my losses and move on? Talk to your lawyer before making any decisions. What are the standards for child support and alimony in your state? Does pausing the divorce reset any clocks? Does your state have a set time that you have to be separated before you can divorce? You've already been married 10 years, so she's all set on Social Security. Are there any business interests she'll be entitled to if you're married longer? Any big paydays on the horizon? Can you go for 50-50 custody? Is your ex planning on getting a job? If you earn enough for $4,000 in child support and six-figure alimony, shouldn't you be talking to professionals? Your lawyer, your therapist, your accountant, not Reddit? Wife probably just realized she would actually have to get a job. Her demands may never have any realization in reality, and it seems like reality has bitten her and she woke up. I sadly think OP is just having his divorce paused for another few years when she might get more. She wanted to do over OP good and proper. That's not love. And staying for the kids, is that enough of a life when you clearly live with a stranger who you cannot begin to fathom? It honestly sounds like she wants to get back together because the divorce isn't going her way. She wants all of that crap from you because she wants to remain a stay-at-home mom even after the divorce. I'm betting she's been talking with her lawyer and realizes that she's not going to be able to do that. I'm also betting that she knows that your daughters prefer your custody to hers. All of that adds up to her losing the life she loves. It has nothing to do with you. Update. I'm going to be honest. Before posting this, I was seriously considering making things work again. But after reading all the comments, I'm leaning towards walking away and continuing with the divorce. I just don't see it working, especially after what she wanted initially. I can look past wanting the house, money, both of our cars, but wanting full custody of my daughter, that's what still messes with me. The last 3 years, she's checked out of our marriage and being a parent. I drop my daughters off at school, pick them up, and take them to their sports and extracurricular activities. I know she sees a therapist, but she's changed a lot. The woman from the past 3 years is not the woman I married. I'm not sure what's caused all of this, and if she's sick, I wouldn't mind helping her get better. A lot of people want to know what she said last night. We had a normal conversation over dinner. She asked me how I'd been and how work was going. She just made regular small talk at the restaurant. I asked what the actual purpose of this dinner was, and she said that she missed me. That's when she started to get really emotional. We went outside to her car, and that's when the apology came about how she was sorry for ruining our marriage. She said she had been in a dark place, but she didn't elaborate on that. I felt like she wanted to say a lot more, but the tears got in the way. We sat in the car for at least 1 hour. I'll be honest, I did hold her to comfort her, and there was still love there. I don't know what it was that kept me from spending the night with her. I thought about it all night, and the feeling was that my wife / the mother of my children needed me, but instead I had left her. I have no proof or signs she cheated before the separation. I could also just be clueless, because I don't really have the personality to question her and be suspicious. I don't know who she's been with since the separation or how far their relationship even went. A lot of y'all said she might be pregnant, which is interesting because my close friend who I'm staying with also said that. I don't know, and I don't want to jump to conclusions. The last 3 years of our marriage, we only hooked up 4 times. I don't know what her true intentions were last night, but I learned today from my daughter that my wife arranged for her sister to watch them for the night. I don't know what all that was about. I truly do love this woman even after all of this. 15 years together, and being married for 12 is a long time. We were together when we were both broke college kids. We've been through a lot together. Even if this is the end of our marriage, I don't regret any of it. I got 2 beautiful daughters out of this marriage. My thoughts are all over the place. Thanks, everyone. My advice is, don't make this about money and things. If you still love her, give it a chance. Think long-term about family, holidays together, etc. Your wife is learning that life is tough. I think this may give you both a chance to rekey. Am I the jerk for asking my husband to prioritize our family tradition over his new friendship? My husband, who's 35, and I, 32 female, have a very small but meaningful tradition that we started in the first year of our marriage. It's nothing major, but it's important to me. Every November, on the weekend before Thanksgiving, we take a day trip to a lakeside town about an hour away. We spend the day walking, talking, and picking out a new ornament for our Christmas tree, something that's meaningful to our year. It's just one day, but it's one of those things that makes the holiday season special for us. My husband recently became great friends with a guy from his gym. They hit it off quickly, and I think it's great because my husband doesn't make new friends easily. His new friend seems like a genuinely nice person and shares a lot of his interests, like hiking and gaming. I know it's refreshing for my husband to have someone he clicks so well with. Here's the issue. My husband's friend invited him to go on a weekend trip for the exact same weekend as our tradition. My husband seemed hesitant to bring it up at first, but eventually he asked if I'd be okay with us rescheduling our tradition to another weekend so he could go on this trip with his friend. I was caught off guard and told him that it kind of hurt my feelings that he'd consider moving it. He told me it's not a big deal for us to just go on another weekend, and he's right in the sense that it doesn't affect anything logistically. But this trip has always felt like our thing. It's not that I don't want him to have fun or make new friends, but I kind of feel like he's minimizing something that's special to us, or at least special to me. When I told him that, he looked surprised and then frustrated, saying I was overreacting. He ended up agreeing to keep the weekend for our tradition, but I could tell he was disappointed, and I feel guilty for that. Part of me wonders if I'm being stubborn about a little ritual that maybe only I care so much about. Am I the jerk for asking him to prioritize our tradition over his new friend? Update. I saw some people asking how long we've been married. We've been married for 6 years, and we've been doing this tradition since our first year together, always on the same weekend. Update 2. A lot of people have asked why this specific weekend matters so much to me. I think it's because we've kept this tradition on the same weekend for over 6 years, and to me, the timing feels like an integral part of the tradition itself. It's become a marker for the start of the holiday season in my mind, and changing it feels like losing some of the meaning behind it. Update 3. I told him I felt bad for how things went earlier, and that I didn't mean to make him feel like I'm keeping him on a leash. I also explained why our tradition feels so special to me, and how I've always seen that weekend as our weekend. He admitted that he hadn't realized how much it meant to me. He said he had been excited about the trip with his friend because it was the first time in a long time that someone reached out to him like that, and he didn't want to let that slip away. We both agreed that he could have handled the conversation better and that neither of us wanted the other to feel like their feelings didn't matter. As mentioned earlier, we've decided to stick to our tradition this year as planned, and my husband is going to plan a weekend trip with his friend in January, once the holidays are over. I don't think you're necessarily the jerk, but I do wonder why it feels so bad to move it. Like, it seems like you're in a position where you can have the wonderful thing that you want, and you can support him in having something that he wants. It's not your anniversary. You both have the power to choose when this happens. He wasn't asking you to cancel the tradition, he just wanted to have both. If it were me personally, I don't think that I would be quite as upset about it, and I think I would probably be happy to move it, given what you said about him having trouble making friends. Are you invited on this weekend away? No jerks here, but I'd just let him go. Making friends as an adult is hard and sometimes takes a tiny sacrifice in your personal life to build that foundation. I think if you can see it from that perspective, you can enjoy your tradition on a different day and he can build a new friendship that could potentially last a lifetime. I understand initially being upset as it's sentimental, but I do think it's not as big of a deal as you made it out to be. Would I be the jerk if I tell my husband's ex she has to move out? I, 35 female, have been married to my husband who's 37 for 1 year, but we've been together for 3. He has 2 kids, a 6-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son from his previous relationship. We don't have any kids together. Their mom, Anne, who's 34, also has a 4-year-old daughter from her current, now ex-husband. My husband and Anne have a good co-parenting relationship, and Anne and I get along well. Last week, when Anne picked up the kids, we have a week-on, week-off arrangement, She told us the kids might need to stay with us for a few weeks. She explained that she and her husband are getting a divorce. The house is in his name. He owned it before they got together, and she's been a stay-at-home mom throughout their relationship. She said she planned to stay with her sister temporarily, but her sister doesn't have enough space for all 3 kids. Before my husband could say anything, I offered her our guest room and suggested that the girls could share a room here, just like they do at her house. This way, Anne wouldn't have to miss time with her kids, and we could help with her youngest daughter while she gets a job and sorts things out. Anne was incredibly thankful and promised to let us know when she'd be moving out as soon as she had a plan. Afterwards, my husband asked me if I was absolutely sure I was okay with this arrangement. He didn't want to move her in only for issues to arise later. I assured him I was fine with it and that we could handle anything that came up. That conversation happened 3 months ago. Anne has been living with us for 2 months now, and honestly, it's been great. Having her here means I don't have to take both kids with me to the store if I need something for dinner. Housework is divided between the 3 of us, making everything more manageable. Anne has already found a job and doesn't have to pay for childcare, which costs around $700 a week in our area. Even though I told her it wasn't necessary, she insists on contributing $500 a month towards our household bills. At our early Thanksgiving gathering, I was chatting with my sister and cousin about the arrangement. My sister said I was crazy for letting Anne stay with us. She claimed I was devaluing myself as a partner and being unfair to myself by allowing this to continue. My cousin agreed, saying the only reason Anne would agree to stay is if she still had feelings for my husband, and his willingness to let her move in must mean he feels the same. I haven't noticed anything unusual between my husband and Anne. They behave just as they did before she moved in, and I truly trust him. But now I'm second-guessing my decision. Would I be wrong to ask her to find somewhere else to live, or am I being unfair to myself if I ignore their comments and let her stay? To be honest, I think you're letting your family judge you on this. If things are going great, why change them? Just because 2 people have no idea about the situation and are on the outside looking in, they're saying it's one thing versus the other. It sounds like jealousy if you ask me. Did they only say it after you gushed about how easy it was? For most people, this would be a no way. But most people don't have the sort of relationship you have with your husband's ex. And did they split amicably? Has she ever shown any sort of inappropriate desires of him? If you feel there's a reason to have her move out, then by all means do it. But don't let anyone force you to second guess what you know to be true, either on Reddit or in your personal life. Ultimately, if you see no red flags or dangers, then there's no reason to kick her out. Am I the jerk for canceling my own debt to my brother after he let his kids run amok with my art supplies? I currently owe my brother around $300. He fronted me some money for a family vacation and said I could pay him back in December, 3-paycheck month. My husband and I are hosting a small Thanksgiving this year with the family members who live within driving distance, and my brother's family arrived on Monday to stay through the weekend. His 2 kids, who are 3 and 6, are generally well behaved, but they're still kids, so I let him know to keep them out of the bonus room, currently half finished, and my craft room. You all know where this is going, so I'll just cut to the chase. I came home yesterday to find the kids splayed out in the living room floor, surrounded by art supplies in ruined condition. They were finger painting with my supplies and had completely cross-contaminated the colors, drawn on my good watercolor paper with markers, completely crushing the tips of the markers as well, and ruined or dirtied several items that my friend had brought me from Korea. I confronted my brother, who was nonchalantly watching TV, and he told me that he didn't let the kids go in the craft room. He had gone in himself and grabbed them, just a couple of things, to entertain themselves with. He agreed to buy me replacements until I actually started tallying up the cost. Then he backtracked and said the price was BS and started insisting that most of the stuff was still in usable condition. I said fine, you don't have to replace anything, but you can forget about vacation money. He snapped at me not to argue in front of the kids. I said, who's arguing? Sounds like the conversation is over. Now he wants me to pay the vacation money immediately and work out replacing the art supplies after. I feel like he's just going to try to haggle me or is going to replace my stuff with Crayola and call it even. Update. The cost to replace the ruined items, minus the Korean supplies, would be about $225. Getting an idea of the replacement cost of the Korean stuff is a bit harder. It was mostly journaling and stationery supplies, so I'm not 100% sure how to determine the cost of it. For example, a half-used book of stickers or a bullet journal that has several pages scribbled in. There was also a set of stamps that the kids tried to use markers on, which I'm not yet sure if they're going to need replacing or not, or if I can just clean them off myself. I was fully prepared to just deal with this the next day to get through the holiday, but my husband ended up making a call to my ex-sister-in-law, brother's ex and the kid's mom, and discussed with her what had happened. She was particularly upset that the 3-year-old was allowed to use finger paint with supplies that were not specifically kid-friendly and non-toxic, and she called my brother immediately and chewed him out for that. She also called our parents about it, which turned into a call from our mother to our brother, also chewing him out for being irresponsible. And although no one brought up the money angle, and I didn't expect them to, he was rattled enough to apologize for yesterday and hasn't mentioned the money. I think I'll just pay to replace what I can and consider us even. Tell him that you'll take advantage of the current Black Friday sales to replace the numerous items he stole to give to his kids, and he can have any remainder after you replace the stolen, destroyed items with other identical products or equivalent, but no more expensive products. Not the jerk. Imagine your spouse demands that you learn to cook gourmet meals. Then you find out it's because they're comparing you to their ex. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.